last and final panelist will be Harold Marcuse. Well, Professor Marcuse is a professor of German history at UCSB, where he has been teaching since 1992. From 2000 to 2005, he chaired and served on the UCSB faculty committee overseeing undergraduate courses, as he spearheaded UCSB's most recent effort to reform its general education requirements. In addition to courses on world and German history, he teaches courses on the Holocaust in which he uses historical comparisons of all sorts. On occasions, he distributes to his students material produced by Holocaust deniers for analysis and discussion. His research focuses on how historical events are understood and used in public sphere after they occur. He has written extensively on the memorialization of the Holocaust and the afterlives of the Nazi concentration camps, how they have been used from the end of World War II until the present. Professor Marcuse attended the March 9th meeting at UCSB in which Anti-Defamation League Director Abraham Foxman discussed Bill Robinson's case at length. Now, I'd like to present Professor Harold.
I'd like to keep my remarks very brief and just let you know what my areas of expertise are and my role in this whole case and why I decided to get involved in it. I think my place as the final panelist is a good segue between Professor Fox's remarks and the general discussion. So I'm just going to give you a brief narrative of how this case presented itself to me.
Here's the mic.
I received the said email at roughly the same time in January as Professor Robinson did. It was sent to me through a contact in Germany who was very upset by the images, and I viewed it and briefly considered using it in my course and decided not to. I was teaching in winter quarter a course on German history from 1900 to 1945, which includes the Holocaust, which includes several lectures on German curtailment of Jewish Germans' rights, on the Warsaw Ghetto, on occupation, on the various measures taken against Jews right up to the very end in the Holocaust. So this is clearly very relevant material to my course in some way, but based on the reaction of the person who sent it to me in outrage or who was disturbed by it, and looking at the images myself, and I had a very similar experience to Lisa's early on in teaching, that I noticed students were very upset by some of the graphic images of violence. If one looks at the images in the email, there are some with body parts and heads blown off and very graphic things, and I decided this wouldn't be conducive to the lessons that I want to teach, although I would emphasize I do teach about how the Holocaust and the Nazis are used or have been used since that time to draw lessons in the present. So I saw the email and decided not to use it in my course. I was invited to the meeting on March 9th with Abraham Foxman. I get invited periodically, probably once, twice, maybe 3 times a year to meetings with, we say, high-profile people who the university, now that we've become much more reliant on corporate sponsorship and outside fundraising, who the university feels it would be good to be affiliated with to raise money for endowed chairs and programs and various things that the university does. So I'm used to this, and I accepted that invitation and went to this meeting. It was a very vaguely formulated agenda. When I went there were bodyguards outside the building, and it was a little bit more imposing than I had expected. And then at the meeting, it very quickly focused in on the case of a Professor Robinson, about which I had heard nothing in any way. I hadn't been prepared, and details of an email were being discussed that was not available at the meeting, and the faculty members and administrators present were being accused of having done nothing about this event, and wasn't that outrageous. And administrators tried to intervene. There was some clarification of what was going on, and the meeting quickly broke up when it was clear that no one in the room was qualified to respond to the allegations that Abe Foxman made. And I don't criticize him in any way. It's basically his job and his position, the position of his organization, to bring such things to light in the public sphere. What upset me, and I know that at least one other colleague at that meeting wrote a letter of protest to the organizers of the meeting, was that what I considered an internal university affair was being aired in the public sphere, and that someone from outside of the institution was brought in a closed meeting and allowed to state positions on that case that I found inappropriate, unsubstantiated, and basically really having nothing of substantial bearing on the case. It was probably a good month later before the case came to my attention again, when I found that the university was denying that the meeting had ever taken place, or that a meeting with this case as its content had ever taken place. And that's when I decided to speak out and say, no, that's actually not true, that there was indeed a meeting, a closed meeting, and no one else has come forward, or except those whose names have somehow leaked out, to discuss the actual content at that meeting. The administration has, in my view, and according to my memory, distorted what actually went on at that meeting to their own benefit. So with that said, that's the reason that I came to speak out. I also, after having looked at the details of the case, find that due process has been ignored. I've spoken with some friends and colleagues in the community who have a differing opinion of that. I think reasonable people can disagree at this point, because the administration has not opened up, the university administration has not opened up and come clean about exactly what happened when and who was involved at what point. And I also find, similar to Lisa, I've had cases where students have had complaints against me. I always hope that I have an atmosphere in my classroom that students feel comfortable coming to me first. I would, if they don't get satisfaction from me, hope that they would go to the department chair and follow due process. I would hope that if they go to someone else, that would quickly come back to me, and I would be able to respond to such allegations. It's my understanding that Professor Robinson was not able to do that in a meaningful way. And I think I can echo Jeff's comments that if we can't trust the process, we can't trust anything in the institution, and there's a huge damage done to the academic freedom and what we choose to teach. So that's my involvement briefly in this case. I'm honored to have been invited to be on this panel, although I don't have any great expertise in academic freedom. What I do have expertise in is the question of Nazi Germany. This is what I study, in particular how events in the Nazi period have been used and are used to draw lessons from, to teach lessons, to make political points in the present. And looking over the said email, which was actually a blog post, Professor Falk mentioned Norman Finkelstein, who was denied tenure based on this. I've used some of Norman Finkelstein's materials, and of course, some of you will be familiar with Daniel Goldhagen, a Harvard professor's book on Nazi German anti-Semitism, to make an argument that it was unique and different than any other kind of anti-Semitism that existed in history, that it was eliminationist, it was specifically genocidal from the very beginning. Norman Finkelstein wrote a book, contrary to that, called The Holocaust Industry, about how the Holocaust was used basically as a kind of cudgel to silence debate. His most recent book, which I have not read, is Beyond Chutzpah, about how anti-Semitism is used in the same way, and I find it somehow ironic. This debate has come back to me. One of my grad students mentioned that I was his mentor to someone else, and he said, oh, isn't that the guy who's defending the anti-Semite? This is how these kinds of issues get projected out into the community and the world at large, and I would guess some of the